Thanks for tuning in to the World XP podcast. If you're enjoying the content, please drop us up, drop a like, and let us know your thoughts below in the comments. Also, please consider supporting our podcast via the link below. It really helps us out. Welcome back, bro.
Welcome back. Thank you so much.
Why are you all the way down in your camera thing?
It is, I don't know if you can hear the motorcycle out there. It's a dude that lives on my block is being crazy. It's the angle that my iPad sits at.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, because I was going to use my laptop, but it's almost always hard stuck on a charger. It like 30 minutes off charger, it's like 20%.
Can you hear the vacuum that just started?
I cannot know, which is good. If you can't hear the motorcycle, that's also good.
All right, good. This is a great start.
Off to a great start.
Oh my God. Fuck. I don't even know what we're talking about. Oh yeah, so I guess we can start with getting fresh cuts and stuff.
Yeah.
Because those are fun. You got one today.
Yeah.
You're gonna line up the front yourself. So when people put in the comments that Jason's barber fucked it up, it's like, nope, that was on purpose. He asked for it that way.
This is I keep saying I'm in like surgery mode of trying to repair it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you find good barbers who can, or even your good barber will have one off day, and it's just like I ain't gonna do that again. I've been cutting my hair since 2020. I've been doing my fade and my line for ages, but I can't ever cut the top, and I don't trust anyone in my house to cut the top. And so I always have to go to him. Sometimes I'll let him do the full, whole 9 yards, line up, fade, and everything. Sometimes I'll have him just cut the top and line everything else up. I had just given myself a cut Monday because I had a meeting that evening I had to go to. And so the fade itself wasn't that old.
Yeah.
But it was a very quick cut. Like I had to it was on lunch, just faded it up, did a quick line. And as I was cutting the line, I was like, I'm gonna need something to like help this grow more.
Yeah, so you don't go Stephen A. Smith on yourself when you're 25.
Exactly. And I used to
put my having that
cornrows a lot. Any braids that pull your hair back, if you do it long enough, it just naturally pulls your hairline. So I was as a kid, I had cornrows, and when I had long hair, I think you've seen me too. When I was still in American Wash, I would come with braids every now and then.
Yeah, you had twists and stuff.
Yeah,
all sorts.
Boss braids were much safer because they went out as opposed to back.
That's true. Like even mine, like one time, so you can't see it because it's back now, but one time because this hair is down there, so when they go like this to line it up, I had one dude like go like all the way back, and I was like, but you couldn't see it because it was down, so like it wasn't the end of the world, but I was like, all right, not going to you anymore, leave that alone. And my guy now, he like, because he lines it up, so there's a little bit, you can't really tell because it's blonde, but there's like a little bit that's short. And he knows where to stop it because, like, when your hair is darker and you can see, it looks a little bit messy, but mine's blonde. The only part is like this widow's peak right here, and then I just do that myself.
Yeah.
Anyways, and even like this stuff in here, I do like with the beard and all sorts. And then I don't know, it's weird because you see some of these like super master barbers on Instagram, and there's not one hair. Like they go in with the microscope and like the what are those things called? The strand thingies when they go through it,
like eyebrows.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they go in and get like every single one, and you're like, all right, how much does that cost?
And that's really the question, because and especially once you become like a social media or influencer in your profession, you're gonna charge more. Your prices are probably like $45 or $50 a cut at that point.
I saw one guy, $120
for a cut.
Yeah. But also, there's a guy he's on TV, he's a soccer guy.
Yeah.
He's like 3 cuts a week, $200 a cut. I don't know if that includes tip or not.
Yeah.
But you spending, I don't know, $2,000 a month on your haircuts. It's like, at what point does that not become worth it anymore?
Exactly.
Even for me, I get mine cut, I don't know, every 2 weeks or 3 weeks, depending on if I'm doing something important.
Yeah.
And I try to time it out too. So I don't get it cut and then a week and a half later I'm like, shit. Like I'll just wait an extra week and then get it cut a couple days before or whatever. Cause I'll have probably like this haircut is probably a little over a week old.
Yeah.
So I have a window where it's okay.
Yeah. Where it still looks appropriate.
Yeah.
You can tell it's like that. You didn't get cut today, but couldn't tell when you got cut. Could have
Yeah.
been 2 days ago. Could have been 4 or 5, 6 days ago. I
Yeah.
just did the numbers. I remember I had calculated this back when I first started cutting my hair of like making the decision to do it.
Hmm.
And my barber he charges $20 per cut, not including a tip.
Yeah.
And if you do it every 2 weeks, 26 weeks out of a 52-week year, it's $520. And my cheap behind back then was like, man, what can I do with $520? And
Invested
so
in crypto.
I probably did. I ain't gonna lie to you. around that season when any 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 uh any loose money at the end of the month at the end of your budget was going into some type of crypto investment. So that in and of itself could be a whole podcast conversation of what in the world happened with the crypto movement.
Oh,
Um,
it's still there, I think. Let's finish the barber one and then we can go on to that because I have two other thoughts that I had when you were talking about the $520
mhm.
because $520, so plus tip, so let's say 25,
25 times
20,
26,
25 times 26
650,
is what?
650.
650, right? So you sitting there almost, how much is that 650 worth if you go into an interview and you look presentable your first 2 weeks and then you the one
Yeah,
that gets the raise?
that is true. First, I
Because
didn't.
it's an investment. I know you've been
Yep.
at everyone been at their job and been like, damn, that dude doesn't take care of himself. And that's not a good look, especially when you in a position like you in where you're trying to maybe go into politics or you're trying to do something where you have to be presentable
Yep.
often. You're
Yeah.
talking to people, you're doing meet and greets, you meeting different people, you had different partnership meetings, you're doing this, you're doing that. You never want to be the dude that's,
You're looking
did he
rough.
even shower yesterday? Like, you know what I mean though?
That's when
It's an investment. I feel like it's an investment.
and I would even say between that 60, because that's exactly what I was thinking of. There might be occasions when it might be a week in between, but you just need another lineup or you want to look as crisp as possible. That's probably why I cut it on Monday. It was a board meeting I was going to in the evening, which kind of got sprung on me the day of. And so I was like, dang, I definitely had not, because I usually cut my hair every Friday. Just make it quick, easy, and that way you're managing your load management is low because
Hmm.
you can still identify where the fade was. You can figure out where you want to make your bloodline.
Hmm.
And usually the line itself is still very much visible. But I hadn't cut in like 2 weeks. And he was like, yeah, can you come present this at like 5 o'clock for the board? I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Skip lunch and everything. I think I had like granola bars or like a trail mix bar and some fruit and just cut my hair over lunch break.
Yeah. After that 650 though, I feel like it starts to get excessive.
Yeah. Because again,
Because
two
then you
weeks is
get,
appropriate.
yeah. Because then you get into where it doesn't even look real. You seen dudes corners look so sharp that it's more 90 degrees than 90 degrees.
They look like it's been drawn on.
Yeah. Can't have
So
that.
well,
Also,
go ahead.
unless you DJ Khaled or something, then it's okay because that's what you expect. And that dude gets his haircut every 2, 3 days from some guy that he probably charges him $100 or whatever, and that's fine. But for not somebody of that
Yeah,
status, it's like,
yeah.
what are you doing?
At that point, though, I'd put them on payroll, right? If you're a millionaire, I'd give them 25 bands for the year and be like,
They probably do.
when I call you, you show up. You
They
you pull
probably
up.
do, to be honest, because they
It's the
don't got
easiest
time.
way.
They don't got time. You know how busy these people are.
Shoot, 2.5 hours. I got to the barbershop at like 8:58, 9 o'clock, right? My dad's there and two other folks are in front of me. I can't tell who's next. Because some of them come in there and look like they don't need a cut, but they're in there because they just want like the whole conversation of, nah, I just got one last week, but I'll make sure I look sharp. So I'm back in here again. It's like, for my joint, I ain't had a cut in 3 weeks. I need to go, but I think it was 2.5 hours. Got out, I texted you at like 11:37 or something like that.
Yeah,
I was like, yeah, I'm back in the car. So I calculated time like 2.5 hours for like four people. One was in the chair, my dad, one, two. So four people ahead of me, 2.5 hours, which I think was good. Two of them were lineups instead of actual cuts or fades, which I think sped the process up.
yeah, you'd have been in there till tomorrow.
Yeah. Yep.
Can't have that.
We've done the podcast from the chair, spinning around.
Hey, not that would have been funny though, actually. That'd have been a good change of scenery. But these
Yeah.
people are so busy. Even the one guy, Garrett, I had on 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago. Dude is getting up at 6 in the morning without an alarm taking
confidently.
cold shower. He owns three companies and he's got his day job. Dude is working from when he gets up until he goes to bed.
I've been encroaching on that because I came to a realization earlier this year that I think I'm approaching burnout. Where outside of my day job, I think I was involved in 10 other things outside of work at different
Hmm.
capacities, four major organizations, maybe five, most of them in Culpeper, one still attached to Mary Washington. And I had to really reevaluate things of like, because I enjoy being busy, right? Like idle time for me is, that's when things get distracted. That's when you get lazy and all of that. But there's also a point in which you're too busy, into which doing things like going to the gym or eating healthy just becomes like a hassle almost, and it's harder to do so. Which is something I didn't realize. Like I realized I'd come close to that, the other end of the spectrum of too busy, which is legitimately there's a space where you're too busy. A friend of mine called me Mr. Always on the Go the other day, and I was like, dang. And I just met her not too long ago, so if she can identify that, I was like, maybe I am a little too busy. So I
Yeah.
can't, there's a balance you have to find. And I think for me, and certain industries, certain professions, there kind of is no work life balance, right? Like if what you're doing is around the clock, or if you're doing anything related to media or the news, you're around the clock. If something breaks at 7 o'clock, you kind of have to be on. You have to be available to either discuss it or share something about it. And it was like, dude, how do you live a life? How do you pursue a relationship, both either in spouse or with a friend, if you are never really turned off of work?
Well, he's
Um,
not. That's what he said.
yeah.
He said he's very conscious of that fact. The other
Is he
flip side,
married?
no, he's
Yeah.
single. So the flip side to that is what are you spending your time doing? So for him, when he's
Yeah.
running three companies, he's going to be able to retire in 5 years and he's 30 or
Yeah.
31 or whatever he is,
So he's
right?
building towards that.
And that's the sacrifice that he's making. So it's weird. It's like you got to figure out what are you actually spending your time doing? Because if you love what you're doing and it's something that's productive for you and you can make a living off it, then it's different than just being involved in things for the sake of it being involved in things. Like you said, there's that balance, but
Yeah.
also staying disciplined with the gym and all the rest of the stuff. I make gym and eating priority number. I make my own health number one usually, and then
Mm.
everything else goes after that, which helps me not put that stuff on the side and makes it not a hassle because I
Yeah.
make sure it's first like number one priority. I don't know. You're right though.
So let's say this. This is the situation I found myself in. I usually have a standing young adult group on Monday at 6:30, 7 o'clock. Some days, some evenings, so usually I don't lift on Mondays. Mondays is usually automatically my rest day. Some days I'll have a meeting on Tuesday at like 5 or at 7. It kind of varies throughout the week. And it's hard for me to kind of plan. Some people like I go to gym on these specific days.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the boards that I serve on will have monthly meetings, and those monthly meetings will happen to just fall on one of those weeks. And if it's not, then it might be a committee meeting on a different week. And I've been trying to figure out, how do I create a structure around a structure of physical health around some other things, right? Like if something comes up during the week, do I shift my days? Do I go on the weekend, which also is very, something I think I told myself a while ago that I was going to start doing the weekends, because I'm not doing anything most of the time. And using the morning time, I could sneak to the gym, get that out the way, and then go about the rest of my day. Um, which is something I still need to do. I ain't gonna lie to you, I still need to get that done.
Mm-hmm.
It's getting
Well,
there.
yeah. One thing to consider for the gym is something is better than nothing. So even if you only
Yeah,
there for 30 minutes, is
30 minutes.
better than not going at all because it gets the heart rate up. It gets other things other than it helps with things other than just oh, I'm getting more muscles. It helps
Yeah,
with mental, helps feeling like you put yourself through some stress today. When you get up and you have a hard workout, super hard workout in the morning, the rest of the day is so much easier because you already did
yeah,
the hardest thing that you're going to do. Like what are you gonna do the rest of the day? Be annoyed that some guy did the dumb thing? It's like,
Yeah,
dude, I already just made myself run this much and lift this
yeah,
much and did all these other things and didn't give
yeah,
myself any rest and my legs are burning and
yeah.
yada yada. Then when you get to work, some guy's like, well, I forgot to do that thing because I
It's all good.
forgot. And you're like, all right, sounds good.
Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah.
And that's it's most of your energy is exerted in the morning. Do you lift in the morning?
I try to I'm in a weird spit. When I work from home, I try to work out in the morning.
Yeah,
Otherwise, it's after work.
yeah,
But I also try and at least get a walk in. Like I walk the dog in the morning or
yeah,
get out of the house to do something.
yeah,
Because often how my schedule was working out, at least in the winter, was I would drive down to work. There's a gym near, so the gym that I have membership to, One Life, you can scan in at any location. And there was
mm,
one near my work. So I would drive down to work, lift at the one there after work, and then go to practice for Fredericksburg Fire or fit it in. I've got a gym in my apartment complex I go to sometimes. Um, but yeah, my big heavy lifts, like legs and stuff, when I go
yeah.
heavy on that, when I don't have a lot of practices or games,
Yeah.
are in the mornings and I get in the sauna right afterwards at
Ooh,
the gym.
ooh. Yeah, you can't beat that.
No.
Planet Fitness got those like hydrotherapy machines for the Black Card members, and I remember one here in town they were like open house, you can come try them out.
Hmm.
And I had considered just upping my membership solely for those chairs because they are phenomenal. They are the real
Mm,
deal. I think they might have a sauna too. I'm not sure if Planet Fitness keeps a sauna in their
probably
locations.
not.
The hydro
If I
massage chair.
had to guess though,
Yeah, I feel like that'd be an odd. Even if they did, would you want to go to the Planet Fitness sauna? I don't know thoughts. Do you still play basketball, or are you playing more soccer than basketball?
I haven't played. I've played. I can count on one hand the amount of pickup basketball games that I've played since COVID.
What? So soccer then? How
Yeah.
you're still playing? You're still playing competitively, right?
Yeah.
Have you found since you were at Mary Wash that you've improved how well or how much you know about the game or certain skills? Do you think you've improved since then?
Oh, for sure. I am a completely 100% better player now than I was then. You,
Yeah,
if you had asked anybody coming out of high school or my first 2 years at Wash, hey, in 5 years, do you think Eric will have gone to Mexico, been on trial with two pro teams, and is playing in and is going to play in the soccer version of the basketball of TBT this
yeah,
summer? They'd be like, no. But
yeah. You are.
everyone on my team now, Virginia Dream, let's see, seven are former pros, actual pros,
Mm.
pro contracts.
In MLS or international?
Some overseas,
Yeah,
a few in France, um, and then the rest like USL Championship or whatever. And when I'm
yeah.
healthy, I'm one of the first names on the starting lineup.
Mm.
Right. So
So
yeah,
you're at the doorstep of it. Is professional soccer a career move that you would make at this
no,
stage? A lot of
probably
soccer.
not. It
It's
would
a,
have to be it would have to be the right offer because in the US below MLS. So one, I don't have a resume.
mm,
Uh, for those listening, when you're putting yourself out there to teams, you basically apply the same way you would a normal job. So I have no resume. My resume is club soccer at Mary Washington. I haven't played in anything that has any meaning really until very, very recently.
yeah,
And I'm about to be 27 and I don't feel like moving to I don't know. Well, this is the example I always use. No disrespect to
Arizona.
Tulsa, Arizona. I don't feel like moving to Tucson to make $25,000 a year for a 1 year contract
Yeah,
to play at a level that is incrementally better than where I'm at now.
yeah.
And for people like if you're listening, Zach, he's my friend he lives in Delaware, not Wool King, different Zach.
That was exactly what I was thinking of. I was like,
No,
he
no,
plays
no,
soccer?
no, 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 no. So for him, he's a quality player, but he lives in
Yeah,
an area where there's not that much soccer around. So
yeah,
he is probably the best player in that area by a long shot. But if he were to come down here, he would just fit in with all the top tier amateur leagues that are in the area, just
yeah.
because there's so much talent around here. So if I
Mhm.
wasn't here, maybe it would be a different thing. But I don't know. I've had people tell me, "Hey, you should still try. You should still this," and I'm not. I've had some people reach out through various things, but it's never gotten past we have interest, if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah. Like, hey, you're pretty good
So yeah,
and it
so
stays there.
I don't know. I've never entered into contract negotiation with anybody except for Fredericksburg Fire, which was very simple basically, but never anyone past that. And I don't know, I'm building a life here and it's kind of
Exactly.
hard to say, hey, let's uproot that. The only way probably I would go is if it was somewhere in Europe and I would go for the experience rather than the
To
money.
play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would do it in the US.
Yeah, and arguably Europe is kind of really where the talent is.
Well, it's not even the talent level because I wouldn't be going to a place. The other thing with professional sports is you have to be better than somebody that they already have.
To be able to get on the team.
Yeah, noticeably better.
Yeah.
And so to go to get into a lower division, you have to be basically as good as the next division up,
Mm.
essentially, as a good
Because they
rule
basically
of
want to see
thumb.
how well you can perform at this level before they even consider
No,
you
because
moving.
they'll just have some 18-year-old kid in the academy who's ready and they don't have to pay him anything. And he's
Yeah.
already got a passport from wherever country they're in. Why would they waste an international roster slot on some 27-year-old dude that's never actually played professional before?
Yeah.
The cards are stacked against me for sure for that to happen. And I don't know. I'm not. It's fine. It is what it is. Life happens in that way. And
Yeah.
I look at some of the guys that played at Mary Wash when I was there, and they're either coaching or not involved at all in the game anymore, and they're not in shape anymore, and they're not doing this and that, and that's fine. But I think I would have got burned out if I had played somewhere.
I got a buddy who's in that boat now where it was a job. I mean, if you play as an athlete, it's your job. And so
Yeah.
the love of the game, I mean, you talk to a lot of the pros now, and they say they play a game, they do this every day because they love the sport. But I think it's one opportunity. Um, Physical makeup sometimes really serves as an advantage because you kind of just get pushed through, or your physical makeup makes it easier for you. But even removing that, it's the work that you have to put in to get to that level sometimes is what burns you out. Where it's
Hmm.
like, I love the game because I like playing the game, but when there's specific either metrics or a new change to the team or a new way it's going to run or they're experimenting with the roster, it kind of takes that fun of the game away and it becomes a business or an organization that needs to be run in a certain fashion, depending on who the coach is, depending on who the athletic director is, whatever the goal is.
Hmm.
Um, it kind of changes how the game is experienced for the player, where it's not just I'm playing this because I'm a diehard sports fan, either for basketball or soccer, but it's because it's kind of like you said, I'm pursuing to try and get to the professional league, and I have to kind of just go through these, these milestones essentially to get there. One thing you said that I thought is exactly the season I'm in is, you once you kind of nest a little bit, and we're at that age where we've been out of school for long enough. It's like, okay, what are you doing now? What's the next thing that you're doing with your life? Um, and when COVID came and I came back to Culpeper, um, I really began to plant roots that as things started to open up or as various opportunities presented themselves, it was harder to, even though the opportunity was incredible, it's hard to just uproot and just bail on everything that you've kind of gotten involved in, right? Whether that be moving to Tucson, and you're like, dude, I'm leaving behind my job, my friends, my close circles, people who might even be my support system, my mentors, accountability partners, whatever the case might be. You're giving that up to go pursue an opportunity really in the unknown, which is there's a risk involved with everything, but that for me has really been something that I've never dealt with, is uprooting myself. Um, because we knew at Mary Wash you got 4 years. Once you graduate, you go back to where you come from, right? So it was easy to kind of get involved with either everything or one thing, and you know when your season is coming. There's a sunset date that you're gonna have. But once you're kind of in the real world, it's like you figure that out for yourself, right? Do you really want to become an absolute pillar in a community where, if you're looking for something like the career I'm in is workforce development, so it's a career center in town. Um, and I'm in a season now where I feel called and I'm led to be here. It'd be hard for me to justify leaving this place to go anywhere else, because it's become, people are relying on me to be there. People are relying on the office and everything that we can provide to be there. How do you then just, hey, they called, I'm out of here? You know,
Yeah.
I,
Well,
that
with
I'm wrestling with that for a while.
with so in your situation, totally agree. In soccer, it's a little bit different because there's plenty of just like 20-year-olds or 18-year-olds that are just sitting on the couch waiting for the call.
And that too.
So right after
Age.
Mexico, um, sitting around, and one of the guys that helped me with getting my resume and my highlight tape done and a few other things like housekeeping items that the clubs were asking for before we went down there. He was saying, "Hey, I know this team is looking for somebody in this position. Are you interested in going on trial with them?" Yada yada, a few other things. And it's like, when would I leave? Tomorrow.
Mm.
Jenna's like, they can't do that. I was like, they can, because they'll just find some, if they'll find some 18-year-old
Who's sitting on the
who
couch
will
with his
be there
backpack,
tomorrow, who will
bag
absolutely
packed,
be there tomorrow. Yeah. And
and it's
it's different. It's different. You're in different stage of life, and it kind of is what it is. So to your point, I want to say one thing about the Mary Wash thing. After those 4 years, I knew I wasn't going back home. I just didn't know where I was going to be. So that was a little bit different there.
are you from Northern Virginia?
Hmm. So
You you
I
were
ended
going
up
back to, go ahead.
not initially, no. I went back. I do not live in the same town that I grew up in
Yeah.
now. I never went back. Um, and I know, but I also didn't stay in Fredericksburg.
Yeah.
So with that said, to your point, because I've had trouble with this too, saying, okay, people are relying on you for XYZ. I can't just leave them. But at what point do you have to say, am I stuck here? Can I accomplish something more? The risk assessment of saying, hey, maybe I'm not going to work at this career center in Culpeper anymore, but maybe I'm going to go to a career center in a bigger town and spread roots here. And if I want to get into politics, then maybe I can meet some people who live in this area because it's more affluent, and I can I can then go back and give back after having accomplished more. There's that piece of it where you got to sort it out for yourself, because if you live solely off what other people want, it's not a
You're,
fun time.
you're gonna be trapped.
Yeah, it's not a fun time. And you talking about the burnout. Oh, people need me to be at this meeting. It's like, do they really?
Yeah.
Not you,
The
but
meeting.
in that situation, the meeting is gonna go,
Yep.
right? The
The show
meeting is
must
gonna
go on.
go, and am I providing the best support I can to these people if I'm burned out?
Yeah.
No, you're not. Nobody, I say this all the time. Nobody wants an annoyed Eric at a meeting, because every little thing that somebody says is going to piss me off. So like,
It just starts gnawing at you.
yeah, and then if I feel strongly enough about a thing, I'll say something and I'll ruin everybody else's day. That's not helpful. It's not
Yeah.
helpful at all. So knowing that about yourself is is for sure something that, as you go in the real world and figure out, when you were in school, for instance, you were in class, teacher really pissed you off. You were never going to say shit about it. Never. You were going to grumble to your friends after class, get through the class, and then
Keep it moving.
move on with your life,
Yeah.
because it was one semester.
Yeah.
There's this thing that I heard, I forgot, things have to get really bad before you move. It's like your boss is a dick, but they're not that much of a dick, so you stay. You're in a
Yeah,
relationship that's kind of shitty, but it's not super shitty. They're not cheating on you, so
so you stay.
it's okay, you stay.
It's settling.
Right. When okay, you get cheated on and your car gets keyed, you're out. When when the
Gone.
boss is doing some sort of abuse, you're gone.
Yeah,
When you're in school, it's just done after 4 months or whatever, however long a semester is. But you can get caught in some sort of community group for forever if you're not careful. You can look back 10 years and you can still be at that one meeting. And what the hell did I just do with these 10 years of my life? I don't actually like this that much. What am I doing?
yeah,
And there's nothing wrong with that, but change is hard. I went through that this last fall/winter. New job, wedding, new team, coaching at a new club. Everything's new.
yeah.
And that was
And
tough.
I think it's the recognition of when you've kind of hit your glass ceiling, so to speak, with certain, with certain organizations, or whether it be with
Mm-hmm.
certain jobs of, I kind of look at it through the lens of what more can I learn, or what more can I contribute to help improve this group, the organization, this company. And if you can, whether it be pros and cons, or, if you're, detailing everything of what you've done and where the organization is now, what more can you contribute? Because I think there's always a time when it's someone else's time to kind of step in, and
Has
it's
to be.
healthy.
This is natural
Has to be.
succession.
Yeah. And that's how things continue. If you always want something to outlive your time in it, right? If a good strong organization usually has that. They have a number of people who have impacted it in a way before, but it's still around, and so it's a recognition of both internally knowing when you become complacent, because I think complacency is the killer of all desire or
Oh, for
feeling,
sure.
when you're like, I'm just here because I'm here. And it's like, well, you don't have to. If you want to do something, especially if you want to do something else, you should go do something else. Um, but to me, that's when you find of like, when there's nothing more that you can learn from something, it's time to move on. And being able to recognize where and when that is very
Mm-hmm.
important. Originally, the question came up because I play basketball every Wednesday, and I've gotten miles better than when we were back in Mary Washington.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing, I don't do anything differently. I'm
Yeah.
just getting older. My mindset about the game has changed, and I study the way players are playing now. Like Kyrie Irving has been like, I got to remember the shoes that Walker had sold me back in the day, the black
Yeah.
ones.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when COVID hit, you couldn't hoop. But then, really, like December, a buddy of mine he invited me to play at this church here in town on Wednesdays at like 8:30. And I go for the first time, and there are some hoopers in there. I was like, yo, this is some comp. This is kind of nice. Play. You kind of, as soon as you play with a set of people, especially if it's the same set, you kind of figure out where people are.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it was kind of the same thing when I got to Mary Wash, because uh, you play hard your first time, your first couple times, because you really want to either prove a point or you want to compete. And that's really my mindset now. Is I play to compete. I don't necessarily just play to have fun. I have fun when I win because I like to compete. Um, that was what going through that. I kind of followed that same method, um, and came to the realization of like your your body can do a lot of things when you put your mind to it, and how you look at the game and how you study it, and kind of just being around it for a while, you kind of understand how rotations are depending on who you're playing. You can learn this in a 48-minute game, or 40-minute game, whatever they are in high school or college. But you can also learn it in pickup, because you get to play with the guys of like, I know this person isn't going to come push out on me when I'm at the 3-point line. He's going to wait. All right, cool. So I'll do, switch it up and just put him in the post. If you want me to come to you, I'll come to you, but I'll put you in a way where I know I can still score. I'm not going to just come face check you, midway through the 3-point line or at the free throw line. But I'm at a season now where I'm like, I have a lot of knowledge about the game. And I've got a lot of knowledge about what you kind of need to do to self improve outside of the construct of a team. And I want to go coach. I don't know where to go coach at. I don't know if I want to go
Mm,
into the school system. I'm thinking just doing little league, maybe being an assistant coach for someone and just kind of being there. But I also want to play with like older kids who also want to compete. Because again, I can't. Playing with little kids would be hard for me because I'm a ball. I'm a baller. And I'm like, no, I want some pushback. I want someone who's going to put the elbow into my back when we're trying to, when I'm trying to get a rebound or something. Um, and so I was curious just about your experience coaching. Of how did you end up there? Was it an invitation to coach, or did you seek after it and found an opportunity to do so?
um, so to your point about learning more about the game, yeah, for sure I'm better there. But I think my soccer IQ has always been high. So
Mm-hmm.
now I'm picking up on little nuances. But I'm faster now, stronger now, better. I'm just better at everything now. So all
Mm-hmm.
the stuff that I was seeing before, I can actually execute it now with at a level that so I'm better at everything now.
Yeah.
But yes, agreed to your point about the mental side. To the coaching side, I had tried to stay away from coaching a team because the parents can get nutty. If you don't
Yeah.
end up in a good situation and the kids are not listening, that can be a pain in the ass. There's a
Yeah.
lot more than just showing up to practices and games. So we have to sign us up for tournaments, do registration cards for leagues, do background checks to make sure that we're not like pedophiles or something. Like I did 4 background checks for coaching.
Like you individually, like
Yeah,
before you can become a coach,
yeah. Why?
or and
Yeah,
one
just
takes a
come.
while. Each one takes a while.
That's what I'm saying, but they're not even real background checks. It's just annoying paperwork at that point. Was they're like they run like a credit check basically.
Yeah.
Sorry, Corey, I'm saying like too many times. They run a background check or a credit check and you're good, I guess. I don't
Yeah.
know. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Um, so I'd stayed away from it and I was doing individual trainings,
Yeah.
one-on-one stuff, and that's
Mhm.
super rewarding. I took this one kid who, if you just told him to run, you'd be like, this kid cannot do anything. And now he's doing, actually, let me send you videos of him from the first time I had him to
Yeah.
now. Um,
Miles, miles better.
dude, incredible. But it's so rewarding, right? That's the thing. And when you've got, so I coached high school when we were in college, when I was a senior. I was
Mhm.
coaching that private school called Fredericksburg Academy. And that
Mhm.
was nice because the head coach knows soccer, but it's one of those things where you're in a small private school and the graduating class is 60 people, so 30 boys, 30 girls, and
Mhm.
you've got 25 boys on the roster. So you've got the entire school on your team, and the
Mhm.
coach is just a guy that used to play. And then you bring in somebody who was coached by dudes that played pro in Argentina and Holland and all these other places. And so he let me kind of do a lot of the tactic stuff.
Yeah.
And that was really rewarding because we went unbeaten that season. And I don't think until state quarters, and then we lost to a team that was bonkers.
Now better than
Um,
your bonkers good.
oh, insane good.
Like these
I
kids are probably going to go to some college or professional league once they're done here.
college for sure, 100%. These kids were. I remember because I had set us up in a way to play. I'm trying to find these videos. I had set us up in a way to play where we weren't necessarily open, but it played to a lot of our players' strengths.
Mhm.
Um, and this team just moved the ball better than so many teams that I'd seen, even club teams that we played
Mhm.
against. All right,
Yeah.
so this one I'm sending you now is him a little more than a year ago.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna send you one from him like last week.
You said this is the most recent one.
The one I just sent you is from
Oh, he's a youngin.
yeah,
He's a
yeah.
youngin.
The one I sent you, the first one is a year
Yeah,
ago. The next one last week.
same drill.
Slightly different, but you can tell the difference. Shout out Young Dino.
That song.
Yeah. So much smoother, so much more comfortable. Both
You can tell
feet.
he's practiced some of the behind kicks. He rolled back and behind. You can tell
Hmm.
he practiced that.
Yeah, with me, but also on his own. But it's
I'll say
showing, but the improvement is just it's hard to show in a 15-second video.
it's
But
training highlights.
yeah. Yeah.
What's funny,
But
so I'm going to cut you off, but there's a story I have of I coach. You know what Shark Tank is, right?
like the show,
Yeah.
yeah.
So in our school systems here in Culpeper, we have this program called E Squared, called Entrepreneur Energy.
Hmm.
Essentially, it is Shark Tank, but for like teams of high schoolers. And within the spring semester, their goal is to basically come up with a business idea and create an entire business plan from A to Z, um, and then present it to venture capitalists or judges in the program. Um, we just had preliminaries yesterday, Friday. My team didn't make it through, unfortunately. But then you go through preliminaries and you go to finals, and then the winning team gets $10,000 scholarships for each person going to school. But my team's idea was basically like a secondhand sporting equipment shop specifically for low income families as their target market. But in addition to the equipment, they also provide lessons, like one-on-one lessons for folks at a cheaper rate than most private instructors would do. And they're all done by folks who play the sport either at high school, college, or coaches who are interested in just giving back to some of the people there. Um, and that specifically of working with someone one-on-one, one of the big benefits and the reason why they created it was the benefit of sports in youth and in kids' lives. It keeps them committed and dedicated to something, especially if they love it and they want to get better at it. It gives them such a level of such focus that you don't usually get from anything outside of that at that age, right? Like that really gives you something to I've got school, I've got my chores, and I've got my sport, and those are like three main pillars of kids' lives. And there's no space for anything that might get them in trouble, or get them in drama with other students. It's just I'm trying to get better at the sport, and seeing a young kid like that go from where he was when he first met you, you having the ability to pour your knowledge and skills into him, and him improving is like just in context of my own mind of like this is what I just went through this yesterday. And now seeing the product of it is like
Yeah.
we should have made it to finals, but that's
Well,
the reason.
even the first video I sent you, I'd already had him for 6 months, so that was 6 months of improvement already.
We so he really he wouldn't be able to do that when you
Yeah,
first met him.
no,
Yeah,
not even a little bit,
that is so
not even
cool,
a little bit.
bro.
Um, yeah, but coaching. So I'm coaching now, and it was an invitation. Teammate of mine was like, "Hey, do you want to coach?" I was like, "Eh." It's like, all right, fine.
Now that you've done it, are you plan to continue doing it? Because I feel like it's almost like everyone says the first day is always the hardest day. First time you do something is always the hardest. But
I
once you get
mean,
used to it, you kind of don't stop. Is coaching something you see yourself doing it a bunch of different iterations in the future?
yeah, people tell me he's like, you're just gonna end up coaching because that your IQ is high enough and you know how to communicate and kids respect you. So you're just gonna end up doing it. It's like, I know, but relax.
And you'll get there.
Yeah, I'll
Don't try to
get
rush this.
so I've got O6s right now. Um, and some of them are don't like listening,
Yeah.
but also the first time I had them and they didn't listen. And I learned this from coaching at the high school. Instead of making them run laps as punishment, you're running wind sprints because you can fuck around with laps. You can go slow and you can do this.
Yeah.
Punishment, if you come last, you're running again until the whole team is done.
Oh, so it almost turns into a competition.
Yeah, don't come last.
And so the last person. So how does it work?
So I do it in groups of three.
Okay.
So first three are done. If you come in one, two, or three, the first sprint, you're done. You don't have to run anymore.
Okay.
Come in Next sprint, you come in 1, 2, or 3, you're done. You don't have to run anymore until there's 3 left. So don't fuck around in the sprints, bro.
You better. You better be. If you're not fast, you better get quick. Or just wait till it wanes out and you're the fastest of your bunch.
I wouldn't even be mad if a kid did that. If a kid knew that he wasn't gonna win against the ones who are super fast, I really wouldn't even be mad if he did that because that shows me that he's thinking.
He's strategizing. How do I
Yeah.
get in a way that I know I can? He's playing to his own strength.
Yeah, and I'm gonna yell at him in front of the whole team, and then afterwards I'm gonna be like, I don't mind that you did that. Because I
Yeah,
can't have the example be set of everyone just goes really slow because that
yeah,
undermines the point of the thing. But
yeah.
afterwards, I'm gonna be like, okay, fair enough. I don't mind that you did that. Hide it better next time.
don't let your don't let your coach notice. Your teammates may, you might fool your teammates over and over now. But I do,
It's
you've been
like
doing it
I
for
will
years.
as long as your teammates don't notice. I told them that the second day I was there. As soon as I turn around, I know that if they're doing fitness and they're doing planks. As soon as I turn around, I know they're not doing the plank anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, do you guys think I was born yesterday? Guys, come on. Like,
And they're
no,
young kids too. You said they're 6 years old.
no, they're 06s. They're 16 or
Okay.
17.
Yeah, they're definitely at that age where they're like, I ain't doing this. You
Yeah.
might have even like the too cool for those hard workout kids too.
Yeah.
They're
So a lot
like
of them are good. A lot of them are good. And it's good. I think I don't want to take a team if because the guy I coach with, a guy named Kevin, we were talking if we are going to take another team, we'd want to
that.
take a team at 10 or 11 years old and turn
Okay.
them into coach them how we want to coach them. Because the problem that you get with some of these kids is if you've been the best team or the best player in a team that's not very good, you don't have to play defense. And so when you get up to a level where you have to press as a team, because we want to shape these players where that we can send them places, send them to college, send them to wherever.
Yeah.
And if you're at a point where right now we've got maybe 3 that could play at a D3 school. Like
Hmm.
our players aren't going anywhere. It's fine. They don't have to. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But so there's a certain level of how much better do they want to get. And it sucks because some of them really want to get better. And then they have teammates that fuck it up for them.
Yeah, because it's a
So,
team sport, still a team sport.
yep. So when we do in passing drills, there's these drills that are the equivalent to basketball would probably be layup lines, essentially, but making sure your layup lines are sharp,
Yeah.
not in terms of a fundamental, like 3-man weave, probably something like that,
Yeah.
where it's very easy to get complacent, like you said, and just fuck around and
Yeah.
whatever.
Do some
And
fancy finish. Miss the
yeah,
leg.
and miss it. Yeah. We do these a lot, and they don't do them right a lot
So
because
good.
they think that they don't have to, not understanding, by the way, that these are the same drills that pro teams do all the time. Pro teams still do those drills. That's what they do. They just
Yep.
do them way better than you.
Yeah.
So, like, we can do this all day
Yeah.
until you guys stop fucking it up. And I
Yeah.
had a group and I did the same thing. Say, okay, you've done it right three times around. You can go off and scrimmage with the rest of your team. I've
Yeah.
still got 6 of you left. I will stand here and watch this ball go around this square for
Mm.
an hour. I don't care. I get paid either way.
Uh,
I'm like, it's up to you guys. And the thing is, when you ask them, you say, "Hey, do you think this is going well?" And they're all like, "No."
they can clearly see that they're not giving any.
They know, right? So it's not just me being a dick. They know they're not. They know that they're fucking around, or they know that they're not performing up to
Yeah.
what they think. And so when they say themselves that they're not doing it, then instead of me being mean Coach Eric, it's I'm trying to help them get better, which is true. I'm not just trying to do it to be a dick. I'm trying to do it so they understand what the point
Mm.
of the drill is. Like this should be a 10-minute drill, guys. This is a warm up almost. Like
Yeah.
activation is what it's called. We're still here. It's been an hour into practice. You guys want to scrimmage? You guys want
How
to
do you
scrimmage?
how do you try and motivate them at that point then?
Well, they're not going to get to scrimmage.
And you just have to take stuff away from them, or at least for that practice. They just can't partake in the rest of the activities.
Yeah, how we structure the practice is we like section off time. So it's 12 minutes for warm up, 10, 12 minutes for technical, um, about 20 minutes for some sort of tactical, and then play at the end, something like that.
Yeah.
Like the longer it takes you to do this shit, the less time you have to play at the end.
Yeah.
So it's on you. You get through it. Like we'll we'll do this drill for 3 minutes. Clock stops every time the ball goes out of play. So they know up front what it is.
Yeah.
And then if they want to go shoot in between drills and a ball goes over the fence, then they got to go get it.
That's time. That's getting. That's
Yeah,
time.
yeah, and they know, we made the expectations up front. So it's good. It's gotten better. It was a pain in the beginning, because you have to show them that you're serious about it.
Yeah.
They get to the 30 minutes left in practice, and we're on only like the third thing that we wanted to do. And they're like, "Can we scrimmage now?" No,
You knew the process. You knew what
no,
that's
you
in.
can't. Yeah, I want to. I'll tell you this off. I'll tell you this next thing offline. I'll tell you it later. But anyways, yeah, it's been good. It's been good, and I like it. But I want to take. I want to sculpt a team to do to be able to play how you want to play, because there's a certain way of progression. Like with this, like the kid I showed you, if you turn a team of him, I can take 15 of him before not being able to run at all. If he wants to learn and he's got some athletic aptitude, I can turn them all into that. And we can start playing. We can start knocking the ball around. By the time they're 13, 14, they're pinging the ball around, going to showcases, and colleges are coming to start looking. By the time they're 15, 16, 17, looking at all district, all conference in high school, right? Going off, getting opportunities places. But it has to start. So to go back to my own journey, I'm 27. It's kind of nobody cares about me anymore, really. That's not entirely true. There's some lower division teams that would care, but any progression, they're looking at kids. How can we develop the kid?
Next generation of talent.
How has the kid been coached? Because you look at somebody like Kevin Paredes, comes through DC United Academy, moves to Germany for $7 million.
How old is he?
He
Or like
is
19?
He's 19, I think, or 20. So the German club pays DC United $7 million. And they're just like, yep, here you go.
Because he's already basically he's been coached, he's in shape, he's young enough to where their investment.
It's a financial thing.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Because at the end of the day, there's a front office that has to consider the business side of each of these things, which is at the end of the day a business.
It's a lot different than basketball. It's a lot different than basketball in terms of like when you make trades in the NBA, you trade player for player or draft pick for player. In soccer, you're paying money for the player. That's it. So you can do whatever you want with the money. You can invest in a new stadium. You can invest in new whatever.
So they're almost buying them like products rather than like trading them.
Yep.
In a sense. But you can also do the same. Isn't that the same thing how NBA teams work? When you trade for a player, don't you then assume the contract that they were getting paid?
Sure. But instead of let's say they traded player A for player B and the contract switched.
Yeah.
In soccer, it would be I give you $7 million for player A and his contract.
Basically buying him out of his contract almost.
You're paying the club. You're buying the player from the club.
So then does the player get paid anything? Or he gets a salary from the new club, right?
Yeah. So they renegotiate the contract with the new club.
And that's their set. They really negotiate the salary, but it's not like they're getting paid this $4.5 million.
It's basically you're paying the club so you can negotiate a contract with the player.
And that's universal for most professional and
all of soccer.
Interesting.
All of soccer. So it's a lot different. So if you have a really good youth system and you developing players,
you get more money because you're constantly getting money.
You're printing money. So Dortmund, the team that I like, we bought
Yeah.
Jadon Sancho for I think 17 million or 7 million or something like that. We sold him for 95 million.
To where?
Manchester United.
Okay, fair enough.
Right, but we bought him from Manchester City where he was getting no playing time. We bought him when he was 17 years old. He plays 3 years at Dortmund. We sell him when he's 20, 80
95.
million profit.
Mm,
Ousmane Dembele, we buy him from a team in France for 17 mil. We'll sell him to Barca for 100 mil.
mm.
If you can develop players, you're printing money.
And that's almost really where the money's at, because development of good players is more important than the product. Well, I wouldn't say the producing, the production of that said player, but if you produce 10 good players, but then each team that they go to only utilizes them in a manner that they get to decide, there's no guarantee that the team is set up, they're not utilizing the people correctly. Right. So there's
Sure.
no, for them, it's a gamble, but for the producers of the talented players, it's like, we're holding up our end of the bargain. We're getting these players ready to come compete for you guys. It's a
Yeah.
matter of how you use
Whether
them.
it's the first team, so the first team being so in when you played for a youth team in Europe, you're playing for the U12 team of that club, that
Yeah.
professional club. And that's it. There's so many clubs with senior teams that that's just how it goes.
Yeah.
So the development, there are certain clubs that have really good youth development systems. Ajax, Dortmund, um, PSV, City. There's a bunch that are known for just producing top quality talent.
Mm.
Some of them, like Ajax, for instance, are in Holland. Nobody knows about them if you're not really paying attention. People paying attention to Real Madrid, Barcelona. But if you went down the list of Ajax players that are playing places, Hakim Ziyech is playing at Chelsea. Frankie De Jong is playing at Barcelona. De Ligt is playing at Bayern Munich. Like they develop these players and they send them out to whoever
Go
they
compete.
buy them. Yeah, then they become world stars basically.
So is the development of players a future option for you? Would that be something more
Well,
fruitful?
that's the point. That's what I'm saying. So the development of once you become known as somebody in the area where you can develop players, then the word of mouth starts to go. And not just for you making money off the player, because you don't, unless you're an agent, you don't really do that. But what
Yeah.
starts to happen is, oh, that guy trained these 5 players and they're now
All overseas.
somewhere else.
Yeah.
I'm going to send my kid to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. You could build a
So
brand out of that. And that ended up being like the main thing. You're like, there's no need to work because my work is to produce these kids.
exactly. So if you have a team, basically if you have a team that you take from 10 and you turn this team into a bunch of ballers and that team goes places, then you have players wanting to come play for your team because
Mm,
they know that your team is one of the best ones in the area. They know that you've got connections to so and so. They know that, and this is long term, right? Like I don't even have this team yet. I've coached for 1 year, but what I'm saying is in terms of people ask me, what do you want to do in the game next? And that's kind of where it's at. It's going to be coaching, but
yeah.
it's got to be in a way that I don't want to babysit. That's boring.
That's kind of where I'm at. Because,
It's also a waste of what I'm good at.
yeah.
That would be a waste of my time to do
Mm.
that. When somebody else could do that. I could have my dad do that. My dad was a great youth coach
Yeah.
because he was great with the kids. Doesn't know
Yeah.
shit about soccer. He doesn't he didn't realize that. He didn't realize that until after I started training with all these dudes. It was really funny. He'd be like, "All right, point your toe." It's like, "No, you tell people that to lock your ankle. You can still point your toe and have your ankle be like flopping around." He was like,
Yeah.
"Well, that's not the... It's like, "No, you're wrong. Stop." I had this
You
conversation with
can
him.
tell him. You can tell him you can handle
Yeah.
him, but what you're
Yeah.
telling him, let me say.
Yeah. Well, because he was telling my little brother that. And I was like, "No, don't listen to dad." I'm sure that was a fun car
Oh
ride
my
home for him.
gosh.
Um, but yeah, so that's kind of where that's why soccer is a bit different, and that's why you see these British coaches come over here and get paid a boatloads of money by these local clubs because they have a connection to some team over in Scotland or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's different. Like it's different than the AAU system. It's different than all the other ones. There was a situation. Actually, I'll tell you. Yeah, I'll tell you. Not here.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's really cool. It's really really cool because the scouting of all these teams is extensive, and a lot of players go slip through the cracks for sure, just by law of numbers.
In every sport.
But the ones that they find, you're like, where did you find that guy? Oh, he was playing pickup on some shitty dirt field in Sao Paulo, Brazil.
I thought
Or
it's
where did you find that guy? Oh, he was in Ivory Coast.
yep.
And
It's
you
almost the
what
same with
team
me.
what team was he on? He was playing with a bunch of trash bags balled up and the goal didn't have a net.
And
And
he could
then
just
he
fine.
became who?
Yep.
Drogba, you said? It's like,
Yep.
where do you find these people?
Yep.
So they're really good at what they do. So that's cool. And the amount of opportunities that you can give kids from who don't have anything
Yeah.
also.
Yeah.
Anyways, I've been
And
rambling, but
that's a generational change, though. And again, those are conversations I naturally gravitate towards because we get to that age of like I was talking with one of the folks who had come to my office not too long ago about the desire of looking at a job simply based on the salary or the money you'll make, and it's like, dude, you can't take any. You can make millions and millions of dollars. You can't take it when you leave this earth, right? And if when the time comes and it's time for you to punch your card, no one's going to remember how much money you made, and no one's going to be so impressed on how many items or material things you own. If you didn't do anything to help anybody, no one's going to remember it for that manner. And
for
so
sure.
there's always an opportunity to make money in helping people, but it's you don't go into it for the sake of making money. You help so many people that someone was like, maybe we should give this guy some money because he's done all of this. That's usually where it comes from.
Well, it's because you become very good at that thing. You can
Yeah,
want to help people all you want, but if you are,
bad
I
at
don't
it.
know, like if you're fucking Dwight in the office and you want to help people and it's just like it's not really working itself out, like you're not gonna
Yeah,
get paid. You gotta be really good at what you're doing.
yeah,
And that's the thing. You have to build a skill set that is this is supply and demand literally is everything. If you're the only person in the world that can do a thing, you're gonna get paid for it.
you're gonna get paid for it.
For sure. You might get paid more or less than somebody else depending on what that skill set is.
Yeah,
But if you are the best at what you're doing in an area,
you get
it's
compensated.
just like that's just what it is. It happens in normal jobs, happens in coaching, happens in literally anything
Yeah.
that you are good at. Like who do you go to? If your barber shit, you're not gonna go back to the
I
barber.
was literally just about to say barber.
Yeah,
That's why good barbers end up having wait lists or they're booked up for the day because they
yeah,
got people
because they're
to
they're
come see
fucking
you.
good. They're fucking good at what they do.
Yep.
It's
And
like
it's the
that with
day before
everything.
holiday.
Hmm
Day before holiday. So that should tell you how
What
busy.
what restaurant do you go to? The one that's like, oh, okay, or you go to the one that makes good food?
Yeah, that's fire. Yeah.
Everything is like that, and
Yeah.
and people should apply it to themselves. Like, what am I good at,
Yeah.
and do it. Like what, and then obviously you can have hobbies as well. Obviously, you should have hobbies to balance out your life. I saw this reel the other day. It was like, I thought my goal was to wake up and be happy and healthy, but then I found capitalism, and now my only goal is to prove myself to other people, and I have no life. And it's like, well, you should
Self-respect.
prove you should it's like you should prove yourself to yourself and be good at a thing and then you get paid for it.
Yeah.
This is not actually I'm gonna go pull it up because it should piss me off. I saw it on
Uh,
somebody's
it's
story and I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna
funny when you
find
see
it.
memes like that like trigger you. You're like, what this doesn't make any sense. Or when
No, it
people buy
makes no
into
sense.
things. I was
Let's
listening
see.
to this podcast the other day about this new diet called high meat diet. You ever heard of a high meat diet?
Like carnivore?
Essentially, or
Yeah,
this guy named called the Liver King. You ever heard of Liver King?
he's a fraud.
I don't know anything about him, but they were talking about him on this podcast and how like they're eating like fermented meat, and like people who are trying to pick up this fad of high meat are just like putting meat in a bag and sealing it up for like a year and just eating rotten meat because this dude told him you eat this and you'll feel your mind will be enlightened and you'll feel incredible. And it's like that doesn't add up. It doesn't add up.
No. The other thing with that is people are gonna people start to say shit, and you got to have a knowledge base, especially with Chat GPT and stuff. And
Yeah.
you could just spit some shit like figuring out what's real. I just sent it to you, by the way, the real. Um, People are gonna start to just say things, and you got to be able to sort out what is good and what's not.
Oh gosh. The thumbnail already has me.
I know.
The little stars and all of this
Yeah.
stuff. I don't even want to finish that. I'm gonna finish that. I'm gonna finish that later. Content creators are interesting people.
They are.
Very interesting folks. Because the people I feel like some people get into it for the wrong reason. Right? Like your goal is to have good people on your podcast to talk about interesting topics. And some
Yeah.
folks
I'm shit at making
oh
money on this.
and sometimes the people who are bad at it make the most because they either say outrageous things or they're hopping on every single trend, whether it be a filter or music, whatever it might be. Um, and they just try and they're always chasing whatever the next target is in terms of what could make them big. And a video like that seems to be that kind of thing because it's you choose to see it through that lens, or you're creating a narrative around what you think the market economy and the
Yeah.
state looks like.
The editing
Um,
is pretty funny though.
what is
That real. It's kind of funny.
at the end of it?
No, just the whole thing, just generally. It's like this would be funny if people didn't actually think this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll listen to it. I'll listen to it here once we finish up, and actually be able to pick apart what he's
Yeah.
saying.
Speaking of outrageous things, Andrew Tate's not in jail anymore.
How did he get out?
I don't know. I just saw he got out. I don't actually know anything. Top G's going back to his Bugatti.
Oh, my top G, bro! I listened to like a 3 or 4 part podcast, hour-long episodes on who Andrew Tate was, and I finished it up, and I was like, how,
How
how
to
the,
which part?
huh?
How to what?
Like how does someone who is like this inflammatory, it's really a charismatic, it's the charisma of people sometimes that amplifies them,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you could be saying a bunch of trash like he is, and a lot of derogatory things toward literally every other person on the planet, even his brother. He treats his brother like crap. But if you say it in a way that you say it in a way with such emotion or passion behind it, people are like, man, this guy's on to something. No, he's not. He just crafted this narrative that exists in his mind and said it in a manner that you are now buying and believing what he says. It's still a load of crap, but now you believe this load of crap.
Yeah.
And it's the fact that the podcast focus on how younger kids are really his biggest audience of adolescents or high schoolers or just preteen folks, and usually it's boys. And it's like, you're shaping the minds of people in a way that's leading them, that's not going to lead them right.
Let me throw something at you just to see what your thoughts on it are.
Mm-hmm.
I listened to 3 of his full interviews. No, 4. Because I was curious.
Yeah.
One conducted by just a woman, one
Mm-hmm.
conducted by a man and a woman,
Mm-hmm.
and two conducted by men.
Yeah.
For sure is inflammatory. For sure could package messaging better.
Yeah.
There's also, and I also watched part of the one with Dave Portnoy and the 2 girls that always interview people with him.
Okay.
And that one was the worst of the 5 of them in terms
Mm-hmm.
of conflict. And in that one, he's saying things to make a point, that it's like, you don't have to say it that way, but they're nitpicking at his
Delivery.
It's like, the point he's trying to make. He made the point in that way because he's trying to piss you guys off, and he
Yeah.
just succeeded.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of so there's that. Also, if you have the ability to say, okay, what is he trying to say? Take little things out. This is it's called Zach, the friend I mentioned earlier. He calls it the grocery store method. You take stuff out that you want and you leave the other stuff on the shelf. Um, for people our age who have some sort of semblance of sort of we're not idiots, I guess. So somebody's gonna get me in trouble. I'm gonna get
Common
myself in
common
trouble at some
sense.
point. Yeah, common sense. We'll go with that. He has a place, I think, in the public space that isn't entirely negative. To your point about younger kids, when you put something out on the internet, you don't really control who watches it.
Exactly.
So who's so should he package things better? Sure. But there's also plenty of people. So are we going to say that all the CNN people or all the Fox News people are bad because they're only talking to old white people
No.
about so and they're saying things to rile them up who have money and the ability to do something about it
Yeah, and want to do something about it.
and want to do something about it. You could say somebody might say that Fox News caused January 6th. I just made that up. I don't know. But
Have you been following their court hearings?
no, I stopped paying attention. But anyways, let me finish real quick.
Oh man.
So and I don't think you weren't saying that he should be banned off whatever he is doing, or if he did the things that they said he did, he should for sure be arrested. But for him to be banned off the social media platforms, etc., I don't think like to me he's no worse than you know who Hassan Piker is.
I
To me
know the
he's
name.
to
Let me see this
me
guy's face again.
to me he's no worse than that, just in the other direction.
In like good or bad.
In terms of say they're saying inflammatory things. Hassan does all the same things, just in the other direction. It's like, oh, the government's out to get you. And what's actually funny is they're saying a lot of the same things, like, oh, government's out to get you. We need like systems corrupt, blah blah blah. They just have different ways of sorting through what to do about it. And Hassan will sit there and be like, government should provide everyone free healthcare and do this with wealth redistribution. And then he's sitting in his mansion in LA because he's making a gazillion dollars off Twitch. You're like, dude,
Oh no, he's part of the Young Turks. Okay.
yeah. So to me, they're the same, just in the opposite direction in terms of like you can pick and choose what you hear from him, but they say things that are equally as, depending on how you look at it. Maybe I shouldn't say equally. They say they both say to me he's no different than any of these people really.
And there's nuance to it. And this is why first and foremost, I disagree with the idea that you can sue because like you said, once you put something into the internet, it's out there. How do you access the internet? Usually
Phone,
through
internet,
usually
yeah,
through
whatever.
through private companies that have created a product or service that is ability that people have the ability to utilize. Within
Mm-hmm.
that, they have their own terms and conditions of how, if you're going to access and utilize our product or service, there are terms and conditions in which you must follow to continue to use it. And he's one of those folks where some of the stuff that if it goes against their terms and condition guidelines, I always found that they have the right to then decide what they want to do with them. Right? We can't get upset that like what Trump did with his own social media. Create your own if the other platforms have taken you off it. Now, the level of success comes, you can't control that, but you can control the idea that you want to create it. And so I've seen a lot of folks saying that, oh, social media companies should be able to censor content or, decide who gets to say what. And I'm like, it's a private company.
Well, they're not though. The
They're
companies are not.
publishers. They were.
That's the thing. So yes, I agree with you. However, for COVID and Twitter and stuff, when the FBI is saying, "Hey, we need you to ban this person," like that's where it's like, okay, we're not. This is not
Yeah.
good anymore. We're not doing this
Yeah.
anymore. The flip side to that is, or not flip side, another angle to that is when these companies become so big, they've essentially got monopolies on the space.
Yeah, they're the marketplace.
They are exactly. So as a private company, somebody should be able to deny service to somebody, etc. I don't disagree at all. I'm not even saying the people that say that he should be banned for saying stuff, I disagree with. And I think the discussion on whether or not a company has the right to is a different discussion.
There was a conversation the intern at my office actually schooled me on was between if YouTube is a publisher or a platform.
Mm-hmm.
And I forget.
I don't know what their thing is now. Because under Section 230, Section 230, well, that's what the government, what Congress threatens these social media companies with when they go in front of Congress to testify. Like, well, if you don't do what we want, we'll take away your Section 230 status.
What is Section 230? Because I'm seeing it
It gives them exemption from, you can't sue the company, somebody. This is not entirely accurate. I'm sure there's a nuance, but my understanding is it allows, it gives the companies liability from people like an Andrew Tate or somebody from they say something that's crazy. Nobody can sue Facebook because somebody said something on that platform.
they're not liable for what their users say on their own platform.
Right. So they have this double jeopardy where they can say, "Oh, we're a private company, so we can ban you," but also we're not liable for anything that you say on the platform. And that for me is where things start to get weird. And
how
they're
would you
playing.
resolve that if you could? I don't mean to cut you off, but because I'm thinking, I would say it makes sense. But also, kind of the argument that people are saying is you don't want them to have both. You can't have your cake and eat it too, right?
Mhm.
You can't be not responsible for anything on your platform, but then also responsible when you want to be and choose who you decide to take on.
Exactly. So,
I think it needs to be then. Oh, yeah.
so Section 230 is not going away. There's too much money in Congress from Facebook, from Google,
Oh
from
yeah.
these other places. It's never going
Oh
away.
yeah.
Have you
Which
been paying
sucks.
attention to the
Sucks
Twitter
to
files?
no. Isn't that what Elon released when he
Yeah.
bought the company? Nah.
So all that did was prove. Remember how everyone was like, "Oh, shadow banning," and then Jack Dorsey in front of Congress was like, "Shadow banning isn't real."
Yeah.
Well, it is. So he lied under oath, which is great.
It's what I mean, everyone, a lot of people do. A lot of
Right.
people
All right. Which is another.
just
It's
add
just
them to the list.
that's another rabbit hole we can go down of horrible things that are happening. But
You
essentially,
might
what?
you might like the podcast to listen to. I don't mean to cut you off, but it's called
No,
Behind
you're
the
good.
Back, and the title goes of they basically do podcast episodes on people who are like just not good people. They had a 5-part one on the Illuminati, and I sat there for all
That's hilarious.
5.5 hours. It's fascinating to know, complete side tangent. I'll let you get back to what you're saying, but it was fascinating to see like it was created to be what we think it is today. This literal secret puppet master organ. It was created to be that. It never really was that.
No, it's
There are certain,
impossible.
yeah,
People are too fucked up to control the entire world in that way.
but they created it hoping that people would believe that, and so they kept pushing it and
No,
attached
dude.
themselves to, one crazy event or one crazy time period. Generations later, people hear that it's accredited to that, and it just kind of goes on. It's like folklore or an
Yeah.
urban legend. It just exists as such.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, man. The Twitter files though, what they did, essentially what they said was the FBI was telling Twitter to ban certain people that went against what the government was saying at the time. And they're like, okay, we'll do it. So it wasn't initially people thought it was just these companies had a bias one way or the other, and it wasn't that. It was the government was involved. They had weekly meetings with NSA and FBI and all these other people saying, like Hunter Biden laptop story. They went to they went there to Twitter. Hey, a story's coming. It looks like Russian disinformation. Censor it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not real. Well, it was real.
So, question then, because I don't have any empirical data or any story to tell, but I feel almost confident to say that the government has done that to individual people at news agencies or individual people just for who they are, um, and throughout all of our history.
Oh,
But
probably
because the
100%.
nature of what social media is, where any individual person can now be a liability for the government,
Yeah, it's a problem for them. It's an
and
issue.
that's it's in their and from their perspective, it's like, holy crap, you just gave Joe Schmo from the back room of Kentucky, who now has a million people platform, and he's threatening to share secrets about our government. They're not, not the Washington Post, they're not the New York Times, they're not the chief editor at any of those locations. This is just some guy. Granted, they could just go to the guy in person, um, but instead they go to the outlet of where it's kind of like if you go to the outlet of like the Washington Post and New York Times and tell them don't run a story because the story is going to be damaging to the country. Arguably, whether or not that's a violation of the First Amendment rights, but um, is I guarantee something like that's happened before to individual people.
Oh, for sure.
How
Look
do
at like
we?
the Bob Lazar story about Area 51.
Is it he had seen Area 51?
Yeah, he was a scientist that worked there. And he came out and started to say, like, hey, there's some wacky shit going on here. And they basically erased him. So there's no record of him at MIT or where he worked before. He's gone from the grid. And then he went on Rogan, so he's back. But
That's the first place he goes.
no. That happened in '89. He was on Rogan in like 5 years ago or something, 4 years ago.
That is hilarious.
No. The Rogan was not the first place he went.
That geeks. That would have
But
been an amazing comeback. Just Joe Rogan's podcast.
no. He's is way back, and I think that all that stuff happened in like the late '80s
Gotcha.
for him. But yeah, they've done for sure. They've done it before. I was gonna say, oh, in terms of the First Amendment, though, this is my thing with First Amendment, right? You should, in my opinion, you should stay as far away as possible, like push the boundaries to this is allowed to be said, because when people start to define what it is, eventually somebody's going to pop up who you don't want to define what it is. Right? Right now, yeah, we should vaccine everyone should take the vaccines because if you don't, people will die. And everyone's like, yeah, that's probably a good thing. We should get rid of it. Okay, well, then what happens when it swings the other way? And now you're mad that you can't say the thing because somebody else is defining it. Because somebody has to define what it is. People say, "Oh, that's hate speech." It's like, what is hate speech?
Yeah.
Something hate speech to you might not be hate speech to me, might not be hate speech to the next person. If you say something in a room of 10 people, maybe nobody's offended. But if you then say it in a room of 1,000 people, somebody's probably going to be offended. 10,000 people, for sure, somebody's going to be offended. The internet, somebody's
Well,
going to be offended. So
yeah.
where do you draw the line? And somebody has to draw a line somewhere. And so at some point, you're going to have people drawing the line who you don't want them to be the ones drawing the line because bad things, bad people. So that's Tate, Trump, all these people. Let them say it because, well, also the other thing is when they say it, they're saying some crazy shit. And so you can say, hey, look, guys, they're still saying crazy shit instead of banning them off platforms. And then they go underground and they fester. And then Trump pops out in a rally with 50,000 MAGA people. And you're like, where the hell did that come from? We haven't seen him in 6 months because he was banned. Like,
And so
well, they
that
were on
brings a
secret
question.
Facebook groups all being angry at the world instead of tweeting their angriness so everybody could see it. And then you could be like, you guys are fucking dumb. And here's why.
The question then is, what happens when people act on stuff that you say online? And I think that's where you get into the nuance of you have the freedom of speech, you have the freedom to say what you want, but if what you say triggers something else to someone, and granted, the liability is arguably or not on the person who says it because they didn't make the action.
Sure.
But I'm not a constitutional lawyer, but I'm sure there's
Me
some
neither.
study of what happens when you say something under protected free speech and someone then gets harmed, hurt, or killed.
I
Who's
think
liable?
you would take that on case by case basis, no?
You'd have
Because
to.
at some point at some point, it's obvious that this thing that was said wasn't that, and at some point, it was that.
Yeah.
Right. And so you're looking at a very, 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 very small subset of instances. And then it's about proving intent, which is super hard to prove anyway. So you got to take that by case basis because I don't think like you listen to some comedians' podcasts and they're like, oh, I'm going to kill that other comedian. It's a joke. It's very clearly a joke. You're gonna clip that, and if somebody kills that guy, that comedian, are you gonna be like you're gonna be in jail because you said this on this podcast?
Yeah.
You're
Or if he got
not.
murdered, did you cause that murder because of
Right.
this? Or no, he was getting robbed and someone shot him in this, kind of case by case context.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. I would say on that front then.
Because comics say some fucked up shit.
Yeah. But I mean that's almost like that's par for the course in comedy, which almost every
Sure.
comedian will tell you that.
Hmm.
And so do you refute the people whose job it is to do this, or do you listen to the folks who think have an opinion?
But when you take what they said with a certain tone of voice and an inflection and a context of the room and you print it, it's like,
You gotta
man,
sound
I
right.
want to fuck. It's like, man, I can't believe that guy beat me in basketball. I'm gonna fucking kill that guy.
And he shows up.
And then you put it in the print as I'm going to fucking kill that guy. It's like, you're a psychopath. It's like,
It's
actually, were you in the room? No.
it's a narrative.
Right.
They've created a narrative about a
Yeah.
situation.
So
Person.
you gotta take it case by case. You can't make blanket rules for that sort of stuff because
It won't work.
people are people are people. That's why some of those back when everyone was super mad about Trump, like 2016, 2017, people were saying he was dog whistling. I was like, guys, people like at what point are you gonna say people are free, have free will, and they can do what they want? Okay, some guy said a thing. That doesn't mean that now they've been programmed to do a horrible thing to somebody else also. Like, when are you going to hold the person responsible for the action responsible? Unless it's a, hey, Jason, I want you to do this bad thing. Like the explicit, like somebody says, oh, I really wish that something happened. Right. And then you say, oh, I really wish something happened. Versus
His intent.
just like musing and throwing stuff out there. Those are also not the same, even though the words are the same, but adding the is not the same. It's just, oh, maybe
Yeah.
those are not the same, and you could use the exact same words. So,
I would say I don't. This is just from the nature of humans. Is I'm not always sure that people are critical thinking is a skill that not everyone has,
mhm.
and to be able to discern what you're listening, and decide whether it is something that you want to kind of stake truth in and believe it as such. Um, we've seen it in our society, and not everyone has it. Um, and so you and I might be able to hear something said or read something that's written and say this guy's completely lying, or they're kind of the grocery method of I'm seeing what he's saying, but I'm not going to follow and say do what he actually does. Some folks might just be like, I'm buying the whole store and everything he's saying I'm taking is absolute truth. I'm saying he, but as if it's a person, but anything that this person is saying,
We know who you meant. Shut
they
up.
take it as like absolute truth. And it's like, and I think that's where some of the frustration is between discourse, both
Sure.
politically or culturally, whatever it might be. Is like people are seeing as if they're thinking as if there's not uh, an and or an and, rather than just being or. Like
Hmm.
either you believe him fully or you don't believe him at all, or you believe this movement or you don't agree with this movement at all. As if like you can't have specific pieces of it to say I agree with it, I don't like the way you're doing it, or I don't like what your goal is, but
Yep.
how you're doing it I'm comfortable, or whatever the case might be. um, we just live in a country with upward of 300 million people. You just not everyone sees it that way. Not everyone has the mental aptitude to see it that way. Um,
Yeah.
which
So whose responsibility is that? As no, well, the thing is nobody's. Are you going to dumb everything down to the lowest
I think
rung?
we have. I think we have in certain aspects or certain.
I agree. Like then some of the stuff that's not a recipe for success and progress. You can't because these problems are so complex. Let's take just any issue any hot button topic over the last political cycle, we'll say healthcare. Already, just off a quick examination, okay, our healthcare costs are super high. Maybe insurance doesn't need to be charging what it is, and the big pharmacy companies don't need to be charging what it is. Okay, sounds good. Our quality is probably the highest in the world. Okay, so that's a trade off. So what do we want? Do we want to pay less, or we want more access, less like where even that just goes, and then you say, okay, how much is big pharma lobbying in Congress? Why are their prices high? And then, but then you go down, and these issues are so complex. So then, when you say we should just give everyone health care,
You don't make the budget for the
and
country. Yeah.
so what are you going to sacrifice? What things need to move to make that happen?
Yeah.
Are you going to continue to have? I heard on a guy named Peter Attia was saying that it's illegal in Ontario to have private practices that people can just pay out of pocket for. Doctors, they have to go through the government. So you can't just have some specialist that set up his own thing and you can't just go there. It's illegal. But everyone there has free healthcare.
And so they've had to set it up in a manner of which this, if you want to do this, this is how you do it because it's in the construct of what we've created it.
Right. So is that good? Do you not want to be able to have some guy who's really good at a certain thing not be allowed to open his own thing? Why?
And that then becomes a trade-off of do the people of the country are willing to make that trade-off?
Sure. What I'm saying to you is these issues that exist, should more people have access to healthcare? Yeah. Okay, how do we do that?
Yeah.
It's so complex that if you're going to dumb everything down, we're never going to get to a solution because there's so many moving parts, and even in the government to make the policies, there's personalities within the offices. Maybe this person doesn't get along with that person, so they want to stick it to them so they can get that person's job, and so this person doesn't get their shit passed because somebody else down the line is vying for that senator spot in the next election, and so they withhold funding for this thing and then that thing over there.
You
So
know, you
how?
just described it is called a game, my friend.
Sure.
This
Well,
big role playing
I'm
strategy
agreeing, but
game.
when people go on TV and just say everyone should have health care,
They're
all the
part of
stuff
it.
that I just said, nobody wants to talk about that. Why? Because it's too complicated. Like,
Yeah.
oh well, people won't be able to understand it. They'll just so we shouldn't talk about it.
It's kind of like solving.
No,
If you solve the problem, you can't talk about it. If you can't talk about it, you can't make money.
that too.
Really at all angles. And
I'm
so,
just talking about the speech part. I agree with what you said though. I'm just talking about what speech gets put out there. And you're saying, well,
yeah,
people critical thinking skills lacking. Okay, but we need critical thinking skills to solve a problem like that. So you're just going to not talk about the parts that need critical thinking and we're never going to solve the problem, which then goes into what you were about to say.
yeah. If you critically think to solve the problem, we can't make money by saying the problem is the biggest problem in the world. An unprecedented, never been here before problem.
That's always
Nothing,
been there.
nothing is new under the sun.
Nope.
Um, so,
You know, the person
yeah,
in LA in charge of the homeless issue that works for the government is making $200,000 a year, and the problem hasn't gotten any better.
I've kind of come to an acceptance of sometimes life just don't make sense, even though we've made it into a structure that doesn't make. It's not like it's natural selection that just we can't understand. There's a lot of and the thing is too is everyone's moral compass is not identical, and
Mm-hmm.
so
100%.
you don't what I might think is wrong. Someone else can be like, I could care less. They're paying me, and I'll take the money. And I've come to peace knowing that as long as I kind of walk this walk out in a way that I can be happy and look back and say, I think I did as best as I can according to how I've been called to do so. I'm at peace. We're not going to solve, the problem. I was just talking about one of my coworkers was just talking about what happened to Tennessee recently, and I was like,
What happened to Tennessee?
"You ain't hear about the members who got expelled from the
No.
state government? It was two. Really, it was three folks, three Democratic representatives in the state government had gotten. I think a vote was brought to expel them, It was two black men and one white woman, and only both of the black men got expelled. And so, like Memphis and another area in Tennessee, technically don't have any representation in the state government right now because their members got expelled. They got expelled because they participated in a protest against or a protest at the state capitol to try and figure out some type of gun protection legislation after the shooting that happened in Tennessee. And instead of like, one of the arguments I heard was, we expelled these members because they participated in the protests. We couldn't fix the issue or even legislate on gun protection laws because this protest blocked us from doing it. And it was like, well, you guys want us to solve a problem. We can't solve the problem because you guys are creating an impasse in it. So we're going to get rid of the members of the chamber who participated in that impasse. But it was also racially charged in a sense because it was only the two black men. And as of now, the woman could have also been expelled. I haven't been following up on it since because I gave up on wanting to follow it. That was kind of just an in your face like overreach, I think, of the government in Tennessee, rather than
I'd
trying to
agree. It's freedom of
legislate.
assembly and freedom of speech.
And it's it's now the folks in that area are still going to get taxed for everything, but they don't have a representative at the state level. In the I think it's I don't know if it's called the delegates or the Senate the way it is in Virginia, but
They're gonna hold a special election to fill
um
the seats.
I know filing in Virginia's deadline already passed. I don't know anything about Tennessee, and this is partly why I was saying I don't live in Tennessee. Um, it is an issue, and if it was my job to pay attention and learn more about those issues, I would. But me knowing everything about that doesn't really make my life necessarily easier. It really makes it harder because now I have to like emotionally carry the anger of those folks in a place that I have never even been to. Which
Yeah, fuck Tennessee.
I've
Just
gotten.
kidding.
I want to go to Nashville. Boy, have I heard amazing things about Nashville.
Yeah,
I
I
heard
have
it
as
is
well. Memphis is really nice also.
Memphis makes some good music too, dude. I don't know if you
Yeah.
listen to a lot of Memphis rap, but they have been going crazy out there, and like RIP Dolphin and everything. But they've been going. I'd want to visit it just to see if it's like I always have like this idea of the Dominican
Dude, we
Republic.
should go visit Brandon,
Does he live in Memphis?
Nashville.
Oh, I'm 100% game for that. 1,000%. He lives in Nashville.
Yeah, he moved not too long ago.
Is he making country music?
Well, Jason, if you had listened to the podcast that I had with him, you would know why he's there. No, I'm just messing.
Oh,
His
you
parents
might,
moved. His parents moved out there, and he went
you
with
might,
him.
you giving me some incentive.
Yeah, you
I
should.
I'm gonna be a cornball and be like, if I don't hear country music, a single come from you in a while, I'm gonna be upset because isn't the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Nashville or in Knoxville, one of the two?
Of all the things that have been said, that's the worst one, and I don't know
What?
the answer. I don't know
Oh,
the answer.
I'm pretty sure Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is
All
up
right, all
there.
right.
It might be the Country Hall of Fame.
I'm googling. I'm googling. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Nashville,
Rock
Tennessee.
and Roll.
It might not even be in Tennessee. I could be 100% wrong with there. So that'll tell you how much I know about music.
Do you really want to know?
Oh boy, it's not in Tennessee, is it?
No.
Give me a hint. I feel like I might.
Uh, Similar region of the country.
North or south of Tennessee?
North.
Is in Chicago?
No.
Is in Detroit?
No. East.
Cleveland?
Yep.
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame's in Cleveland?
That's what Google said. So if that's wrong too, look, people, don't come get us, okay?
Yeah.
I'm very happy. I'm very comfortable with this being the worst thing that we've said on this entire podcast.
I think this is a space for both you and I and our viewers to learn.
You're not wrong.
I'll be listening to podcasts. I'm like, that don't sound right. And I Google it, and be like, damn, it is right. What the heck? Maybe I'm wrong,
Well, that's the other thing with podcasts, like taking out what is good and what's not good. I'm sure we've got a bunch of things wrong, but we also just trying to learn more about stuff. That's why.
But I always say this is even some of the people who might listen don't know it. No one knows everything. And so we might have said stuff
Nah.
that they were like, yeah, you're 100% right. Or the same fashion, we might have said stuff that we are 100% wrong. You just kind of got to go with it.
Who knows?
Or if someone else, we said something that we know is right, and someone else was believing something that was incorrect, and they're like, hold on, that don't sound right. And then they Google it, and they're like, oh, these guys are right.
Yeah.
It goes both ways.
That's why I got to do these ones only once in a while. Because the other ones where I'm interviewing people, I'm just asking questions. I'm trying to learn about what they're doing.
Yeah.
But with you and Chris, and a few others. I'm just talking about random shit for 2 hours. It's a
Talk
lot
about
more
life.
fun, a lot more high risk for me to put this on the internet.
It's a good episode to make your YouTube shorts or your TikTok or Instagram reels out of.
I know I'm too long-winded. Those are actually really hard to come up with, because I have to go back through however
Ow.
long of footage. So sometimes what I end up doing is I just close my eyes and let it go at a certain, like a third of the way in and listen for 5 minutes and see if I can find one, and I just go again.
Yep. Just
Because it's
scan.
so hard to find something that fits within a minute when we talked about Twitter files for 15 minutes. What
Coaching
one
maybe.
what 1 minute in there is good and is concise enough and actually says something that is worth putting in a reel that's not just within a bigger thing.
Yeah.
So it's tough. It's tough. That's hard too. The other hard part is finding guests always. So if anyone wants to come on who has something interesting to say or just wants to shoot the shit, let me know. I bet not you. I'm talking to the listeners, but also if you have people too, that'd be
I'm
nice.
already
That's
going down
fine.
my thought process is cool, folks.
Um, but anyways, yeah, nobody's gonna be listening by this point anyway. So anyway, I've seen the graphs. We can literally say whatever we want right now. I've seen
Yeah.
the graph. It goes like this. It's like 100% viewership, and then by like 10 minutes in, it's just zero.
It drops out.
Yeah, that's all right. That's
Do
why I know I'm
you
safe. That's why I brought up Andrew Tate 50 minutes in
do you only see those graphics for YouTube, or is it on like all podcast
for
platforms?
YouTube. For YouTube mostly, yeah.
Are you on? There was a platform I had shared with you back when we were both trying both trying to get started, and I never got started.
I know
Uh,
you didn't. You sell out. We're
yeah,
supposed to do it together and hold each other accountable, and I'm 100 episodes in, and you're zero.
I haven't even started. Me and my buddy we bought soundproof panels, had his room set up. It was in a sunroom,
Can
and
I
it
have
didn't.
those?
Huh?
Can I have those?
Probably can. I ain't gonna lie to you. Probably still sitting in his sunroom, taken off the wall.
Oh, no, it's
When you
all
do it,
good.
I don't know how to get it stuck because you might have to
I
glue.
don't. Well, I was gonna get one of those like screen things behind me,
Yeah,
but I don't know. What
you
were you about
agree.
to say? Oh,
Um,
platforms. Anchor. Is Anchor the one that you're talking about?
yes, yep.
Yeah, I'm on that one. Spotify bought it.
Bought Anchor out.
It's now called Spotify for podcasters.
A rebrand. Just kind of slap on Spotify's name.
They went all in on after they gave Rogan $100 million. They went all in on podcasts.
Interesting. I had
They
shared I had shared a podcast with somebody, and I actually follow World XP Podcast on Spotify. I'm pretty
Hell
sure.
yeah. Anyone still listening who hasn't followed World XP Podcast on Spotify, please do it and
I
subscribe on
am.
YouTube. And and the big kahuna, you can support this on Spotify for podcasters for as little as 99 cents a month.
What? Well, yeah, because that's how Anchor used to work. Look at that.
Yeah.
They haven't learned about COVID-19.
I do?
No, a tag on one of your episodes.
Which one? Is it
Just
with Chris?
yes.
It means I've made it. I texted him when the tag popped up. He was like, "Yes, we've made it."
Oh my! They have flagged your video. They said,
They
"Hey,
did.
go ahead. Here's our article."
You know what's actually funny about him
Uh,
is he's more qualified to talk about it than 99% of the people that are talking about it. He's an immunologist, cancer researcher, PhD. He knows how the immune system works and how
is he
vaccines
work at
work.
NIH?
No, he works at some biotech company.
Is he like a science, like an experimental scientist?
Principal lead scientist, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, he knows his shit, bro. He
I
got
had
his
someone.
PhD from Johns Hopkins Medical School. He's
He
or
knows.
Johns Hopkins cancer something important thing. Did his postdoc at Harvard. He's dude. He's fine. He knows
I
his
heard
shit.
I heard someone tell me that they didn't trust Dr. Fauci because he's a lab scientist doctor and not a like medical practicing doctor. And a lot of the policies and things he was supporting didn't consider the human emotion or aspect of it. And I was like, that's probably a benefit because if he did, he might have skewed maybe his recommendations based on people's or emotions. Which
I
in
don't
that
I don't trust him because he said I am the science. If you question me, you're questioning the science.
He said
You hear
that.
that shit? Yeah. To Rand Paul in
Oh
Congress.
boy. Oh boy.
Also, they had a trigger warning for those listening. They ran an experiment on beagles because I guess they have
Oh.
a high pain tolerance and they let
Oh.
sand flies eat their faces off or some crazy shit.
The NIH.
Go Google Fauci beagles bugs and
What? What a Google.
it's don't actually. I mean, if you want to, it made me really sad, honestly. Um.
Beagle
Oh,
gate.
no. They didn't do it because of the pain tolerance. They did it because they don't bark as much or something. Let me make sure that's true.
I'm seeing from the Hill. A couple of things from PETA.
Yeah. So, anyways, Fauci, nice guy. Um,
I love how PETA is the one that shared this article.
what's
So
PETA
yeah.
stand for again?
Oh, couldn't even tell you. Ain't even cat. Hold on,
I
let's
know
see.
they got into an argument with like Jimmy's Crabs on Twitter.
People for ethical treatment of animals.
Yeah, they got into an argument with some crab company on Twitter, which was fucking hilarious. Some crab company based out of Baltimore. If I can find it, I'm not gonna
Ocean
bother to
City.
find it. Yeah, dude, people, Maryland, what a
Yeah.
state.
right, right, like a football's toss from
Yeah.
DC, really from Northern
Oh.
Virginia. Just throw it over the city.
Yeah.
If you could throw a football over the city of DC, that'd be insane. League him as he would just be like he would flick it at
That's
100
fucking
yards.
Iron Man, bro.
Yeah.
Oh
Hmm.
God. But yeah, so you should if you've not seen Rand Paul question Fauci, you you Jason, but also people listening, you should listen to it because my man says some crazy shit. How he skirts around questions and stuff. But I don't know. I don't know.
In the Senate hearing,
Let me look. I think it happened once or twice. Um, but Rand Paul, I'm pretty sure Rand Paul is a doctor, actual doctor. Yeah, Duke School of Medicine. Um, the fuck is ophthalmology?
I think that's for the eyes, ain't it?
Yeah, it is. But the point is that he understands how to read sciencey medical type shit. And Rand Paul, Fauci, beat down.
Is it the title?
No, I just Googled it.
I'm about to say that's not clickbait at all.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. The whole thing is kind of wild. Speaking of people lying under oath, he said that he didn't know what gain of function, or he said that they weren't doing gain of function research because that day on the NIH website they changed the definition of gain of function research. So what he said in Congress like matched up with what the yeah, all this shit is crazy. And last soapbox to get on. I know it's difficult to pay attention to all these things, right? And I got into this conversation because I saw an article that FIFA had put women's players into the game and they were mad because like one of their hair was messed up and one of them didn't look like they did in real life or something, and people were like, yeah, FIFA's racist and it's offensive to people because one of them was bald. Like, but these are glitches in software. There's been a dude who's got a man bun who's been bald since the game came out in September. They just put these people in the game like a week ago, and
An issue.
and news people are like Yahoo, and these people are like, yes, FIFA's racist, yada yada yada. When you got shit like that going on, where Fauci's saying, "Oh, we didn't do this," and then we're
Yeah.
sending more shit to Ukraine,
Yeah.
and that's what people are paying attention to. That some video game character is bald,
Entertainment.
and
And
the players were tweeting about it as like all right, can we get this fixed? But also, it's a little bit funny. It
Yeah.
seemed like the vibe to me. And so these news articles are saying, "Oh my gosh, look at this company! It's so horrible. They're so insensitive and offensive to all these people." As Biden is falling up the stairs because we have a president that doesn't know where he is. It's like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
And it's probably why it's so easy. It's much easier to just kind of disconnect because there's so much
That's
that
when shit. That's when shit hits the fan. though. That's when you cannot disconnect because when you disconnect, then these people just do whatever they want.
well,
Am I boring you?
no. If we're not in a position to actually
Kidding.
affect change, right? How much like
I
the
don't
thing in
disagree with that
Kentucky,
either.
where like I can't do nothing about that. I mean, the only thing they want really is why they do it is they want you to send money, help fund what we're trying to do over here. Which at the end of the day, you can't. You're 100,000% free to do so. You don't always know where that money goes,
I'm
right?
not sending money to anyone.
You never know where it goes. Because some campaigns are more honest or less honest than others, right?
Yeah.
This generally might be going to helping that person get back in, or it could be helping fund a private luxury vacation.
Yeah, or it could be helping fund Hillary Clinton's hit jobs on people. By the way, I don't want to kill myself.
Likewise, I do not either.
Yeah. We should probably end this before we really say some stupid shit.
We get an FBI subpoena. We'd be like, oh well. I also do
Yeah,
not want an FBI subpoena. I don't want that.
nope. Guys, we've done nothing wrong. I'm gonna do my taxes appropriately as a U.S. citizen.
I'm glad you just said that.
Did you forget? I'm gonna do it after this.
I have yet to do my tax, but I worked like 4 jobs last year, so I am no.
Have fun with that, dude.
I am in no.
That was one of the other reasons why I didn't want to coach.
Because you get the W-2 for that.
No, because I didn't want to figure out how to report it on taxes. I'm so lazy.
I think we're getting to that point where the free version of like TurboTax or H&R Block, we might have to like sit down with somebody and be like, talk to me about how do I get this right.
Yeah,
there's a lot of I have like a monthly auto donation to like 2 churches, and so it probably pulled out like $5
write-offs. Good job. Save that money.
But it's like I don't know how to report that on a free version on an H&R Block with no, I'm talking to a robot AI chat thing, and I'm like, I just need somebody. I need to give somebody everything that I have about taxes, and they just they bundle it up, make it into a nice.
That's expensive.
Yeah.
Do we know anyone from school that did like tax law or went into business tax stuff?
My cousin's an accountant, but I don't know what type of. I don't know if he's doing
accounting. Yes, that's the profession.
Yeah, I don't know if he's doing like tax accounting.
Tax accounting.
Yeah, I know someone at my church who works for an accounting firm, and she told me, she was like, "Yeah, tax season just sucks for accountants if you're working in a tax firm." She's like,
I mean, it sucks until they get paid bank for it.
Yeah.
As soon as tax season is done and those checks hit their accounts, they're like, "Ooh, that was kind of nah." But I'm going to Mexico.
Yep, going to Cancun. Don't call me for 3 weeks. I'm gone.
Oh my god!
I mean, that's like spring madness, not March madness. It's spring madness, and at the end of the year, everyone wins. Everyone goes on a nice vacation.
Not wrong. Hopefully we both get some nice refunds. That'd be cool.
I had to pay last year too, which is part of the reason why
you had to pay.
Oh, I had to pay like $200.
Oh my god! It was like you owed the government money. I'm surprised they didn't kick your door down to get that $200. They're really good about getting the money that you owe them, but less good about giving it back when they owe you.
That return, though, yeah, we don't know what you're talking about. We don't know what you're talking about. It's like a magician where it's like, and they just flip their hand around. There's a check, and they go back. We still don't know.
They're really good at making money disappear.
Yeah. Their own included.
All right, we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Peace out, y'all.